They laughed the first time I walked into the training hall. I remember the sound bouncing off the metal walls, sharp and cruel, like it had been waiting for someone like me to arrive. I was the only human in a class of 40 cadets, and to them, I looked like a joke wearing a uniform. My name is Maya Chen, and I want to tell you what happened during my first year at the Interstellar Defense Academy, because I think it matters. Not because I want anyone to feel sorry for me, but because I learned something out there that I never could have learned on Earth. The Academy sat on a ring station orbiting a gas giant called Thren, built by the Coalition centuries ago to train officers from every member species. Humanity had only joined the Coalition 8 years earlier, after decades of careful diplomacy. We were the newest species allowed through the door, and most of the other cadets treated us like an experiment that hadn't finished yet. The worst of them was a cadet named Vosk Draith, from a species called the Kaltori. The Kaltori were tall, broad-shouldered, covered in dense gray scales, and proud of a military history that stretched back 10,000 years. Vosk was the son of a fleet commander, and he never let anyone forget it. Soft skin, no claws, no armor plating. "You die if the temperature drops 5 degrees, he said to me on my very first day, loud enough for the whole hall to hear. "Tell me, human, why are you even here?" I didn't answer him. I picked up my training pack and walked to my bunk. That was the first lesson I learned at the academy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is a choice. Over the following weeks, the mockery didn't stop. It became creative. Someone reprogrammed my locker so it wouldn't open before drills, making me late every morning. Someone swapped the settings on my simulation pod so I would fail navigation exercises that I had actually passed the night before. Small things, designed to wear me down, piece by piece, until I broke or quit. I didn't quit. I started keeping records instead. Every incident, every timestamp, every strange malfunction, I logged it quietly in a private file. I told myself I wasn't collecting evidence for revenge. I was collecting evidence for the truth. There is a difference, even if it doesn't always feel like one. My only real friend at the academy was a cadet named Iris Okafor, another human, 2 years ahead of me. She had survived worse than locker sabotage during her first year, and she taught me something I never forgot. "They want you to react," she told me one night in the mess hall, after I'd had an especially hard day. "The moment you lash out, you prove every bad thing they already believe about us. The moment you stay calm and keep doing your job well, you take that power away from them." I held onto those words like a rope in deep water. 3 months in, the Academy announced the Thren trial, a survival exercise conducted on the surface of a nearby moon, where cadets were dropped in pairs and had to reach an extraction point using nothing but a basic supply kit and their training. It was meant to test resourcefulness, teamwork, and composure under pressure. The pairings were supposed to be randomized. Mine wasn't. I was paired with Vosk. I should have suspected something the moment I saw the assignment list, but I told myself it was simply bad luck. It wasn't luck. Later, I would learn that Vosk had quietly arranged the pairing himself, confident that he could either make me fail publicly or make sure I never returned from the moon at all, and blame it on the harsh environment. The moon's surface was rocky and cold, with thin, freezing air that stung through even our environment suits. Vosk moved fast at first, forcing a pace I struggled to match, clearly hoping I would fall behind and give him a reason to leave me. When a sudden ice storm rolled across the ridge we were crossing, visibility dropped to almost nothing. That was when he made his mistake. He tried to cross a frozen ravine alone, taking a shortcut that would leave me behind in the storm. The ice cracked beneath him almost immediately, and he went down hard, his leg trapped between 2 broken slabs, his emergency beacon damaged in the fall. I could have kept walking. No one would have known. I could have reached the extraction point alone, and the story would have simply been that Vosk failed to survive the trial he'd rigged against me. I didn't walk away. I climbed down into that ravine, freezing wind cutting into my suit, and I pulled him free using a length of cable from my kit. I set his leg as best I could, gave him half of my remaining supplies, and half carried him the rest of the way to the extraction point through the worst of the storm. We arrived 20 minutes before the trial's deadline. Neither of us said a word the entire final stretch. I want to be honest. I didn't help him because I had suddenly forgiven every cruel thing he'd done. I helped him because leaving him there was not who I wanted to become. My grandmother used to tell me that strength isn't what you do to people weaker than you. It's what you refuse to do to people who deserve it. I thought that moment on the ice would change something between us. It didn't. Not right away. Vosk recovered in the medical bay, and within a week, the mockery started again. Quieter this time, but still there. Some cadets even seemed to enjoy it more now. Like proving I could be humiliated, even after saving him somehow made the joke funnier. But something else had started. Something I didn't notice until much later. Instructors had noticed the trial logs. They noticed that I had a perfect record of completed objectives despite repeated equipment malfunctions. They noticed that I had chosen to save a cadet who had every reason to leave me behind. Quiet conversations began happening in offices I wasn't part of. 4 months later, everything changed in a single night. An emergency alert tore through the academy at 0300 hours. A supply convoy near the Thren system had gone dark, and initial scans showed weapon signatures near its last known position. Signatures that matched a group of rogue raiders who had been attacking coalition trade routes for months. Worse, one of the missing vessels carried sensitive medical supplies bound for a colony recovering from a plague outbreak. Command needed a small, fast response team, and every senior officer was already deployed on other emergencies across the sector. They turned to cadets with the highest trial and simulation scores. To almost everyone's surprise, my name was on that list, near the top. I was assigned to a 4-person response team, tasked with locating the convoy, and, if possible, negotiating the return of the medical supplies before they were lost or destroyed. Negotiation, not combat. Coalition protocol was clear that cadets were never sent to fight, only to observe, document, and communicate. We found the convoy drifting near an asteroid field, disabled but intact. The raiders hadn't destroyed it. They had simply taken it, planning to sell the supplies on the black market, rather than let a plague-stricken colony receive them. What I discovered next was the part that still makes my chest tighten when I think about it. The raider group wasn't some random band of criminals. Their operation was being quietly funded and protected by a Kaltori fleet commander named Thren, Vosk's own father. He had been diverting coalition resources for years, using his rank to cover the trail, all while publicly preaching about Kaltori honor and superiority to cadets like his son. I had the evidence almost by accident. Our team intercepted a communication burst meant for the raiders, carrying authorization codes that traced directly back to Commander Draith's personal fleet channel. I sat there in the cramped shuttle, staring at those codes, and I understood that I was holding something far bigger than a supply theft. I was holding proof of corruption inside the very command structure that trained us to believe in honor above all else. I had a choice in that moment. I could quietly hand the evidence to my superiors and let the matter disappear into a slow investigation, the way these things often did when powerful families were involved. Or I could act. I chose to act, but not with force. Our team broadcast the intercepted authorization codes on an open coalition emergency channel, along with our location and a formal request for immediate oversight. It was the opposite of a raid. It was a spotlight. Commander Draith arrived within hours, expecting to silence a small cadet team before anyone noticed the leak. Instead, he found a coalition oversight vessel already inbound, alerted by our broadcast, along with 2 other fleet commanders who had long suspected corruption in his ranks, but never had solid proof. I stood in that convoy's cargo bay when he was formally detained. I did not raise my voice. I did not gloat. I simply presented the evidence, calmly and clearly, exactly the way Iris had once told me to handle everything at the academy. Commander Draith stared at me the entire time, his expression somewhere between disbelief and fury, as if he could not understand how a lowly human cadet had unraveled years of careful concealment. The medical supplies were recovered and sent onward to the colony that needed them. The raiders were taken into custody, and Commander Draith, stripped of his rank on the spot pending formal review, was escorted back toward the academy station under guard, because that was where the nearest secure holding facility happened to be. I did not choose to be the one walking beside him during that transfer, but when our shuttle docked, and the doors opened onto that same training hall where I had once been laughed at, protocol required that the cadet who filed the report accompany the detainee to formal processing. So I walked in, calm and steady, with the very commander whose son had mocked me on my first day standing in restraints beside me. The hall went silent. I saw Vosk near the back, frozen in place, his eyes moving from his father to me and back again, as if his mind could not fit the two images into the same reality. I didn't look at him with triumph. I didn't need to. The silence in that room said everything that needed to be said. Later that evening, after the formal reports were filed, and the hall had mostly emptied, Vosk found me near the observation deck, staring out at the slow-turning stars. I expected anger. I expected another insult. Instead, he stood beside me for a long moment before speaking. "You could have let him go unnoticed on that ice, and you could have let today happen without ever looking at me," he said quietly. "Why didn't you?" "Because that's not who I want to be," I said. "Not because of what you did to me, because of what I decide to do, no matter what anyone else does first." He didn't answer right away. Then, almost too quiet to hear, he said, "My father always taught me that strength means never showing weakness. I think I finally understand what he had wrong. I didn't need an apology from him, and he didn't fully give one. But something shifted that night, something small and honest, and it was enough." I still think about that first day sometimes, the sound of that laughter echoing through the hall, the certainty in their eyes that I didn't belong. I think about how easy it would have been to let that certainty win, to shrink myself down to fit their expectations, or to become as cruel as the people who mocked me. I chose neither. I chose to keep doing my work honestly, to help even the people who didn't deserve it, and to let the truth speak for itself when the moment finally came. They didn't laugh at me again after that night, but that was never really the point. The point was that I never needed them to.